Oh my god, Mr. Hyde, do you have any idea how hard it was to find you after the conflict with Mrs. Lucy? Where have you been? Dr. Robert Lanyon.
Lanyon, how amazing for you to show up at this exact moment. For your information, I have currently been running from the law on account of an arson charge that I did not commit. Mr. Edward Hyde. A tiny cursive. Oh no. Scribbled into the bottom of the page.
Yes, I am so very certain you had nothing to do with the London fire that claimed a large portion of the city. Quite innocent, despite the small detail of Henry confessing that it was actually you. Even if I had pushed him to lie at first. Wait. What do these people mean by referring to you and Henry as two sides of the same coin? Dr. Robert Lanyon.
Shit. I'm sorry, prick. But Moreau attacked me with a flamethrower. How is London not going to burn down in his hands? And the people are probably referring to the fact that I'm his assistant and get to know all the little secrets he keeps in his little glass cabinets. Jealous much. Mr. Edward Hyde.
You little urchin! I will never understand why Henry keeps you around and even tried to protect you. Such a crude creature. I'm sure there were other, more proper ways to deal with Moreau. Which is why I wonder where your superior was during all of this. And I am not jealous. I have no care for Henry's little side hobby within the society. I simply wonder how Dr. Henry Jekyll could be even somewhat associated with a man of your caliber. Dr. Robert Lanyon.
The writing seems to become more confident, the teeniest bit less messy. It seems arguing was something the writer could deal with. Is that worry I see, Lanyon? Careful, you might show an emotion for once in your life. And if you're wondering where our dear doctor was during the attack, why not ask him yourself? I, of course, know exactly where he was. Isn't that strange? Telling his assistant before his best friend. Mr. Edward Hyde.
Not going to tell Lanyon the truth, then? I don't blame you. I shouldn't know either, but really, you're in a place full of practical geniuses. You're lucky I found out first, and this isn't a rumor I'll be spreading neither. But don't let secrets get you hurt. Either of you. V. Ito.
Most of the page is filled with different handwritings arguing. Most of it isn't legible, but you can make out some words like how, when, and what now. Eventually, the chaos dies down into acceptance.
We should have expected this, honestly. I'm holding you to that promise of not gossiping, Ito. Mr. Edward Hyde.
It's not as well kept of a secret as you think. You're good at hiding it, but that's mainly because most of us are too busy to worry much about you. I've had tons of free time, and I started piecing things together. V. Ito.
The writing is still small and precise, more controlled. We'll keep that in mind. Thank you for being honest, Miss Ito. Mr. Edward Hyde.
I've shown plenty of emotion, thank you very much. Only I actually have the ability to compose myself. Something you seem unable to replicate. Assistant. There are a lot of letters scribbled out, as if Robert started writing a word, but changed his mind. Ugh. Whatever the reasoning for Henry's secrecy, you're still avoiding my first question. I don't believe that it's an overzealous assumption on the asker's parts. Clearly, there's something more to this, since even Miss Ito has hinted at whatever it is. I'm refusing formalities at this point, urchin.
Compose or control. The line is ever so thin. And I'm not avoiding anything. Maybe you just need to...
This sentence stops abruptly. The rest of the page is illegible, but certain words can be made out.
Stop.
In cursive.
You're going to. You're the one giving us away.
In choppy writing.
Don't talk to him.
Back in cursive. The only legible content is at the very end. The writing's still choppy, but now small. Reserved. Stop writing to me, Robert.
Ah, crap. I've gotten Lanyon on your tail now, haven't I? V. Ito.
Yes, but it's nothing I can't handle, don't worry. Mr. Edward Hyde.
You're rather calm about this. V. Ito.
It's just letters. If I tell Robert firmly enough to stop hurrying to me, then I should be fine. Thank you for your concern, Miss Ito. Mr. Edward Hyde.
Sure. That might work. For now. But, you if anyone should know that communication can cease while curiosity still lives. It's something in our society. Not our society, I mean the big world. Even surrounding rogue scientists. My point is, he can stop writing letters, but will he stop questioning? V. Ito.
There are small wet spots on the parchment. I cannot let him know. I just cannot. Anyone but him. Mr. Edward Hyde.
There's multiple words on the page that are neatly crossed out, looking to all be the beginnings of Hyde's name, leaving only one word properly written near the bottom aside from the signature. Doctor. V. Ito.
More droplets. Larger and more frequent. Please, Ito. I'm begging you. He cannot know, please. There is no signature this time.
He isn't dumb. V. Ito.
Multiple sentences start and stop. I know that, but I have to try. I'm begging you, Ito. We're begging you. Please, don't tell him. Again, there is no signature. In its place is a very small, choppy lettered.
Don't.
There's a large gap in the page before the words, as if the sender took some time before writing anything. Not my place to tell him anything. That's up to you. But, if he finds out on his own, I won't lie to him if he asks. V. Ito.
The droplets finally stop, and the letters are shaky. Thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. We will understand if you need to tell him, just... Multiple sentences start and stop. Thank you. Mr. Edward Hyde.
Whoa! Now, this is curious. Oui! I thought Hyde hated Lanyon. Why would he care if Lanyon knew? Another layer of lies? V. Ito. Somehow, even the words of the letter itself come off as playful rather than accusatory, with some of the lettering purposefully being looped dramatically.
A sentence starts, then goes wobbly and is crossed out, like someone started laughing in the middle of writing. The writing becomes more loose, more choppy. Of course I don't. But Jekyll's pitching so much of a fuss over it that I can't help but take some pity on him. Can't exactly torment our dear doctor if he's wallowing in sadness, now can I? Mr. Edward Hyde.
Sounds like someone's doing a little something called deflecting. V. Ito.
The writing finally gets back to the regular chicken scratch everyone knows. Sounds like someone needs to shut up and mind their own bloody business. Good day to you, Miss Ito. Mr. Edward Hyde. A small note written in cursive at the bottom of the page. Thank you.
Yeah, you and Lanyon would have been good together as a couple. If anything, you're more than enemies, Eddie. Or maybe frenemies?
I would never be friends with Lanyon. Thank you very much. Mr. Edward Hyde.
Dude, you are so gay for Lanyon. It's not even funny.
You either shut the fuck up or I will make you. Mr. Edward Hyde.
Make me.
Start running. Mr. Edward Hyde.
Like you could do anything. Wait, what the fuck? There's a long streak of ink and a tear in the paper where the streak ends, like the person had been attacked and accidentally tore the paper.
Let this be a lesson for anyone who tries to fuck with me, ladies and gents. Mr. Edward Hyde.
I bring drinks again. A little birdie told me that you prefer sweet things, so I've replaced the peppermint tea with hot chocolate, whipped cream, and marshmallows. And I've replaced the biscuits with tiny chocolate chip cookies. I would like to ask, are these preferable to last time? I have a clipboard here and I will be taking notes.
Strange. That little birdie sounds an awful lot like the good doctor. But yes, these are way better than last time. Those are all Jekyll's favorites, and I will never understand how he's able to eat that bland shit. And if these gifts are just a way to make me feel better, I don't need anyone's pity. Got it. Mr. Edward Hyde. A note written in cursive. Thank you again for the gifts. We're both feeling a bit better now.
How are things with Lanyon?
After our last letter, he stopped writing to me. But I don't know how long that will last. The bastard is persistent. He kept on asking Jekyll about me when he came to the society the day after. Every conversation they had was about where I was, and if I've come back, or Henry, just give this man over already. A cursive note saying,
He didn't say that one.
is crossed out. Mr. Edward Hyde.
What happens if Lanyon ends up asking Ito about it? Can she be trusted to lie?
No. No, she said she would tell him if he asked. Lanyon wouldn't want to go to anyone else about this, though. Much less one of the lodgers. Mr. Edward Hyde.
There's a drop of ink on the top of the letter, as if Robert held the pen there for some time before writing. Listen. I apologize. The handwriting is shaky, as if Robert was loath to write the word. I've spent some time thinking, and Henry seemed to have an adverse reaction to me bringing up the letters. I don't understand why. I was livid while interrogating him about them, about you. So my understanding of his reaction could be skewed, but I just want to know. Why is this secret so detrimental to Henry? What about it would make it hard to tell his... There's a phrase marked out. Best friend about it. There's much more writing below the last line, which has been sloppily scribbled out. The words...
What did I... Good enough? Trustworthy?
Are the only slightly legible things. I'm sorry, Edward. Forget it. Forget that I even wrote this. Dr. Robert Lanyon.
Multiple sentences start and stop, and some are scribbled out. Some in cursive, some choppy. Like whoever is writing is figuring out how to respond as they go. Eventually, halfway down the page, something becomes legible. Listen, Lanyon. I'm telling you this once, and only once. What you're trying to dig for is something Jekyll once buried, and buried deep. Ito found out on her own. The doctor didn't tell her himself. If this gets out into the public, if he makes even one single mistake, he's getting sent straight to Bethlehem. I know you won't stop if you think Jekyll is in danger, but believe me when I say this. If you keep looking through those cracks in his facade, you won't like what you find. Every man has his demons, but his are very real. Mr. Edward Hyde. At the bottom of the page, a small cursive note of
Hyde.
is scribbled out.
I don't understand. You're right, I won't stop until I know Henry is safe. If he's keeping such a big secret that could supposedly get him sent to Bethlehem, I need to know. I would hope to God that Henry knows for certain that I would never tell anyone. I do care about the man, with far more emotion than you give me credit for, Hyde. However, I believe you forget how long I've known him for. He's been boarding himself up for years. For God's sake, he kept it a secret when he used a soup spoon instead of a dinner spoon in his private quarters. All because he thought it was disastrously unbecoming of him to do so. The fact is, Henry frets over little things and causes them to be much bigger than what they actually are. Whatever Henry has catastrophized to you, I'm sure it's not nearly as bad as he's made it out to be. And if it is... There's a scribbled out mess of reassurances, seemingly mostly addressed to Robert himself. Then, one final reassurance, written confident and clear as day. I will still be there. Dr. Robert Lanyon.
There are droplets on the page. They make it hard to read what's written, but you can still make it out. If you mean that, Lanyon, if you will and truly mean that, then there's no point in me keeping it from you. You could just keep coming back, if not to me, then to Jekyll. The middle of the page is riddled with scratches and marks, like the signs of a struggle. Like someone was trying to keep the writer from finishing the letter. However, it didn't seem to work. If you turn me over to the police for arson, you'll be turning over Jekyll to the same cell. If you wish for me to rot in hell, then you would condemn him to an identical pyre. The struggling gets harder, the pages ripped around the edges, and the droplets get larger. And if Henry gets thrown into Bethlehem, then I won't be far behind. The bottom of the page is barely legible. So many scratches litter the page, it's almost impossible to make out any words. Somehow, you can make out an address. This isn't something to be said over parchment, though. Meet me at my house in Soho an hour till dawn. We have something to show you. The only reason you can make out the last sentences is because the words are pierced into the paper, dripping ink onto the water stains. You better not have lied to me, Robert. It's a mistake no man makes twice. Mr. Edward Hyde. There's writing in what seems to be cursive, but you can't make it out.
If you wouldn't mind, do let us know how that meeting goes. I've got $50 riding on you two shagging, so if you can make it go well, that would be great.
No, we didn't. Mr. Edward Hyde.
Are you perhaps going to see a certain Edward Hyde about something? What do you think the secret is, anyways?
What? No, I simply needed a moment to compose myself. I was just thinking. There are a few startings of denial crossed out, both sappy about a good friend of Robert's and upset about the subject of Hyde and Soho. All right. I suppose if you all really are omniscient, there's no point in denying it. I've already been. It was certainly something. I'm not entirely sure how to process it, but I can't exactly hate Edward now, can I?
He's still a little urchin, but...
There's a scribbled out mess of unintelligible lines. I'm sorry, that's all I can explain. This is important to Henry,
And Hyde as well.
so please, no further questions about it. Dr. Robert Lanyon.
You guys are seriously telling Lanyon? I have to admit, that takes guts. And maybe a bit of stupidity. I do certainly hope it goes well for you both.
Jekyll didn't get a choice. I dragged his arse to Soho with the potion in hand. If Lanyon wanted to know that badly, then so be it. He showed up around dawn, and obviously didn't see the doctor anywhere. He started to question me on where he was, with Jekyll screeching at me not to tell him, not to show Lanyon. Eventually, our guest got sick of going around in circles and threatened to leave if Jekyll didn't show up. It was then that I downed the potion. They were screaming, obviously. Getting your bones to stretch and break is never a picnic. But after Lanyon realized I had turned into his precious Henry, well, he wanted explanations. So Jekyll told him everything. The first transformation, how long this has been going on for, and what actually happened the night Moreau blasted a hole into the society. He was silent through all of it, listening. Then he just left. We thought he'd lied, that he wouldn't stay, that he'd throw us into Bethlehem. The choppy letters started getting skewed, like the writer had started writing faster, but just as quick as it came, it stopped. He came back a few minutes later to see Jekyll and I yelling at each other, though through Lanyon's perspective, he would just see Jekyll yelling at glass. He said he was still there, and thought he just needed to compose himself, like the prick didn't almost give us a bloody heart attack. He's been treating Jekyll like glass all day, like the slightest breeze could break him. Lanyon always has some sort of food or blanket, And he keeps asking if Jekyll is doing all right, if he needs to sit down, blah, 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 blah. The lodgers can tell something went down, but Ito's staying silent about it. Lanyon also hasn't said shit about me, which is nicer than the bastard normally is. Mr. Edward Hyde. A note, written in cursive. Robert took the news surprisingly well. Hyde should not have showed him the transformation, but he's still here.
I missed a lot, did I not? V. Ito.
Yes. Yes, you definitely did. Mr. Edward Hyde.
So now, because you told Lanyon, do you think I'll start treating you differently?
He already has. I was talking to Rachel a couple hours ago, and he came into the room and just stared at me. He'd normally call me urchin or crude or something along those lines, but now whenever he does, he immediately backtracks and changes the topic. Sometimes he still makes jabs, but they're not as harsh as before, and the paper is crumpled in the middle, like someone almost crushed it in a fit of anger. I'm sure he still hates me. All he's doing is trying not to hurt Jekyll by insulting me, and it's painfully obvious. Mr. Edward Hyde.
I won't lie, that's still shitty behavior. How's he somehow being worse than before? Well, at least he's not going as far as to pretend to care about you. That sounds like a nightmare.
I swear to God, if Lanyon even tries to give me a blanket, I'm punching him in the nose. The cursive line of, "You will not," goes ignored. Mr. Edward Hyde.
I'm the bearer of bad news, I'm afraid. V. Ito.
Oh God, what now? Mr. Edward Hyde.
Well, Rachel's suspicious. Not of these secrets, not exactly, but she knows something happened. She came asking me if something else happened between Hyde and Robert. V. Ito.
I'm not dealing with this tonight. Mr. Edward Hyde. A note in cursive. Thank you for telling us, Miss Ito. I don't think either of us have the emotional capacity to deal with Rachel at this time, though.
I'd say punch him in the nose. I wonder how he thinks he's protecting Henry by just putting up a facade. One of the many, many things that is shown to make things worse between them.
There aren't any words written on the letter, but it is ripped down the sides.
Okay, might have hit a sore spot there, sorry about that. At least Ito is acting as normal, right? If not a little cautious so she doesn't spill the secret.
Ito is acting normal. She also hasn't told anyone, but she knows Robert knows. God, I need a drink. Mr. Edward Hyde.
You've had a long night. Now, I had to pull a few strings, but I got you a white tiger's milk from the bar. Don't even know if you like it, but you've got a sweet tooth, so... Anyways, even if you don't, I don't know, get yourself something. I shouldn't be encouraging this, but at least this time, I guess you have a pass or whatever. Not that you need my permission anyways.
I'll take the brandy, but this better not be because of pity. I'm going out tonight. Need some fresh air. Mr. Edward Hyde. A note at the bottom of the letter in cursive. Hyde's had a rough day today. We all have. I'm not sure if Hyde regrets telling Robert or not, but I think the three of us need some time to adjust to what happened.
Don't drink yourself into oblivion. Please. V. Ito.
No promises. Mr. Edward Hyde.
Hyde. I'll break every damned bottle you have. The writing is more wobbly than the usual precise, curly handwriting. V. Ito.
I'll be back before sunrise so Jekyll can do his precious work. Does that make you happy? I can't deal with this shit right now. Mr. Edward Hyde.
Take a night. I just hope you know people really do care about you. Know your work, not worried that you'll cause trouble, but you as a person. Take care of yourself. This is directed to both of you.
This letter is found in Henry Jekyll's office, with the window blowing cold night air into the room. The only tell that the letter was read is it being out of its envelope.
Hi, how are you doing?
This letter starts off with cursive writing. We're doing all right. Hyde did come back at sunrise, so I'm now in my office doing some paperwork. Somehow he didn't get caught by the police, which I'm grateful for. Miss Ito was right, though. Rachel is questioning me on what happened between Robert and I, and I'm sure she's asking Robert the same.
I can't believe he's still with me.
Dr. Henry Jekyll.
That's what you're surprised about? That he's around?
The cursive is still here, but a bit less composed. Robert already hated Hyde. He wouldn't have wrote the letters unless it was his last resort. When he came to me after the first batch, he was livid. I tried to calm him down, but he showed me the one where I overtook. He said Hyde was unstable, which, ironically enough, isn't wrong. Robert despised Hyde, so when he found out I was Hyde, I thought he would leave, that he'd quit working at the society and cut all ties with me. But he's still here. I'm sure we can all find a new normal. It just may take a while. Dr. Henry Jekyll.
The power of love is amazing, isn't it? He didn't just turn you over to the police. V. Ito.
That's... For the record, I do trust Robert not to turn Hyde over now that he knows. He's been my best friend since college. I just wish he didn't have to see the actual transformation. Dr. Henry Jekyll.
That's enough time for him to transform from your best friend to your boyfriend. Get a move on. V. Ito.
The normally choppy handwriting comes back. Yeah, that won't be happening anytime soon. Jekyll and Lanyon are walking on eggshells around each other, and Rachel's been asking questions all day. In summary, everything's a shit show. Mr. Edward Hyde.
Hello, Edward. Just writing to check in. Is there anything you need? I'm not sure what
An urchin?
a lad like you enjoys. We could go out and talk over a drink, maybe? Dr. Lanyon.
Don't patronize me, Lanyon. I know what you're doing. The only reason you're being nice to me is for Jekyll, so stop pretending you even remotely care about me. Don't do this again. You still hate me, and I still hate you. Nothing has changed. Mr. Edward Hyde.
You! The first word is crossed out, as if Robert had a flash of anger but quickly suppressed it. Listen? I will admit, I don't feel the same about you as I do Henry, but let me make this clear, urchin. I do not hate you. There's a mess of scribbles, as if Robert couldn't figure out how to word things. You need to realize that everything has changed. I don't get it. I don't think I ever will. But some things make sense now, don't you see? The glint you had in your eyes that day.
You really are a part of Henry. The part before.
The last word is almost entirely scribbled out. The first letter could be an M, but it's unclear. There are sides to Henry I haven't witnessed in years. You've just been too much of a little mongrel for me to notice it before. The writing becomes shaky here, once again like it pained Robert to say. You're not as bad as I took you for.
Even if you did burn down half of London.
You can take my offer or leave it. I know a great tavern that's out of the way. Henry might be able to back me up, even if I've only brought him there once. The name Charlie should ring a bell for him.
You?
I'm not sure who I should refer to. Just let me know if I should wait for your sorry arse tomorrow night. It's depressing to be seen alone in a bar, you know. Dr. Robert Lanyon.
A lot of the page is unreadable, switching between cursive and choppy writing erratically. The letter is also a bit crumpled and damp with droplets. Eventually, the choppy writing becomes legible. God damn you, Lanyon. Damn you to hell. The cursive comes back, but only for a bit. The two seem to be discussing something, with the cursive hesitantly encouraging the choppy writing to go, The words
This could be good.
in cursive and
I'm not going with him.
in chicken scratch can be seen. You can barely make that out, though, as the conversation is scribbled over. Then the choppy writing comes back. Fucking fine. I'll be there, but only if you're paying for the drinks. Don't be disappointed when you find out I'm not your pretty boy in a different font. I'm everything someone like you would hate. I'm just going for the free booze, and that is it. Mr. Edward Hyde. A note is written out in cursive. It's almost all scribbled over, but you can make out one sentence. I hope this goes well for you, Robert.
Splendid! I'll be expecting you at 10 o'clock sharp. Drinks are on me, as they usually are. And, Edward, I'm very aware of the things I dislike about you. Don't you worry your matted head about it. But take this as a sort of fresh start to things. Getting to know you further than how pretentious your title is. Dr. Robert Lanyon. In smaller writing at the bottom, like a whisper. I don't plan it will be very easy, Henry. But this new revelation has me curious, which I gag at the thought of. I sound like one of your scientists.
There aren't any droplets on this page, but there are marks. They seem to be careless, but not as angry. Like someone was grumbling while writing. My titles aren't pretentious, you arse. I should be very clear by now. I'm getting the expensive booze just for that. Mr. Edward Hyde. A cursive note is at the bottom. Thank you for giving
Me. Us.
him a chance.